Hey, welcome to the show. We back. We made it through another week.
Yes, we are back live. Catching me fixing my headphones.
That's
All
right. You got to be
right.
ready. You
Gotta
got
be
to come to
ready.
the show ready to go. See, me, I'm always ready to go. So this week we're going to be talking to Carisa Montooth about Wednesday's episode, basically on how to sustain love and how to, keep things going. So it's the love coach, guys. So we're going to have a ball right after this. Now it caught me, right?
All right.
So yeah, like I said, we have the love coach here, and we're going to talk to her.
So let's bring her right on in.
Let's go. All right, here we go, Carissa. How are
Hi.
you?
It's my favorite couple.
All right. We'll take the title. All
Right.
right. So how have you been since we last spoke?
Oh, I've been great. Life, busy, marriage, momming, all that stuff.
Oh, momming, yes.
Business, momming, entrepreneur, all of that, right?
All of that. Business, wifing, momming, all of the things.
Yes. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
So I am Carisa Montooth. I am a love coach and sixth generation healer, and I help women heal their hearts and attract happy, healthy, sustainable, committed relationships.
All right.
I love that. Sustainable. That's what we're talking about here, guys. We're talking about
Because
sustainable.
it's not just about the wedding, right? It's about the marriage.
Yes.
Yes. It's after the I do, right?
Right.
It's sustaining it
Yes.
long time. All right. So we had a great time on episode number 89, and it was sustaining love. So we're going to talk about our first point, which was, what do we talk about? Self-sabotage.
Here we
Yes.
talk about self-sabotage.
So
Bing.
right there.
Bada bing, bada boom. Yes,
Oh, I
self-sabotage.
love this. This is
All
so
right.
great. You got the titles and popping and everything. So
We have
stay
you
right
covered.
on point.
We have you covered. All right. So, Carissa, tell us about how we self-sabotage.
Because I know we do.
Yes.
We do. And it's important to see how we do it, but it's also important to understand why we do it. Because everybody thinks about self-sabotage and they say, I would never do that. Once I'm in my happy, healthy relationship, I would never sabotage that. I've been waiting on that forever. Like, there's no way I would, blow that up. But the thing about it is that a lot of times we underestimate how strong the pull of familiarity is.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
even if we were miserable before, we knew how to handle that misery. That was familiar to us. Even if we were lonely before, we knew how to be lonely. That felt familiar to us. So then once we're in that happy, healthy relationship, it feels good, but it doesn't feel familiar if we haven't experienced that before.
Right.
Right.
So it can be really hard to ease into that sort of flow of behaving in a new way that's healthy and letting go of those patterns from the past. And it can be very tempting to
Yes.
just create some drama or do something because you think that sometimes it's because you think it's going to fall apart anyway because that's what's always
Exactly.
happened in the past.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We think about, okay, so this is only a matter of time, or we're looking for that bomb. Say, well, I knew it was going to happen. It was too good to
Waiting
last.
for the other shoe to drop. We're
Of
doing
course.
exactly what we're doing, and we're like, and so we facilitate that so that we can just deal with it. Like let's just get there and get it over with.
And I know we talked about it in depth on the episode.
Yes.
So give us a little, what are some of the things that people do when they self-sabotage themselves in a relationship, when they finally get a healthy one, or when they think they want a healthy one, but then they're sabotaging getting to that healthy one?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times what they'll do is create unnecessary drama.
Okay.
So that's a big one that people will do. And they'll start fights about things that aren't that big of a deal or that they're not really even that invested in the fight. Just to have drama. Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right? just to have something that you're arguing about, you know.
Right.
And so sometimes that will happen. Sometimes it is having an inappropriate relationship with an ex, like not letting go of that situation. So
Because it feels familiar.
or like in the name of I'm pursuing closure with this person.
Oh, the closure
Right.
word. Yes.
I must have closure because closure is so important. And the thing about closure is like you never get closure until you're in a new relationship and you don't care anymore. It's this weird
Absolutely.
thing that happens with the universe where it's like until you stop caring, you don't get to hear that thing that you needed to hear. And if you look for closure, you're not going to hear what nobody's going to say to you. I think we talked about this before that nobody's going to say to you, you know what, this is what I did and it was wrong. But actually, they're not going to say something to you that's going to make you go, thank you so much.
Right.
Make
I
you feel
needed
so
that. That
much
gave
better,
me
right.
closure. They're never going to give you
Exactly
closure.
what I needed to hear, and now I can move on with my life. God bless you. Nobody's going to give you something that's going to make you say that. So it's like we, you know, that's one of the self-sabotage things is saying, well, I have to have dinner with my ex because I need closure. Well, that's very
Or
necessary.
things that we used to do in unhealthy relationships, do we continue to try to do them in a new relationship?
We continue to try to do them in a new relationship, and that may be things like not making time for the relationship. If that was an issue before and that was something you were fighting with the person, you know, that you were with before, it's like you'll do all of those same things. There was a marriage counselor I remember saying once when she said people will do the thing to fix their second or third marriage. They'll finally do the thing that would have fixed their first or second marriage.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Okay.
like they'll do that
Right.
thing in a subsequent marriage. But it's like it's not that they didn't know it was a problem. It's that they didn't understand how serious that was, and that was a pattern that they had.
Right,
And that if they
right.
changed that, they could save the marriage. You know,
Save the
so
situation, yeah.
they put a lot of energy into thinking it's this person's problem. It's her. It's because she doesn't change for me. It's because she doesn't understand. It's her perception. It's not something that I'm doing or his perception. You know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's things like that. We don't make the changes that we already are really familiar, like we already know that we need to make those changes. We know we need to make time, or we know we need to be better at communicating, or we know that we need to be reassuring, you know. We know that we need to speak our partner's love language. Like we know those things, but we don't do them, you know.
Absolutely.
And those are big self-sabotage things.
And I know Carissa just talked about love language. So we're going to put the info on the page on our website where you can find some books that's going to help you get to not sabotaging your relationship.
This is some good reading here. It's right on our website, legendaryrelationship.com. We have a ton of different books that you guys should pick up for your reading. This is what helps. This is what, when she talks about making yourself better, making yourself
changing the things you know you need to change.
Right, changing yourself and realizing, hey, my stuff really isn't working.
All right, so next thing we talked about on Wednesday, another tip, we're going to talk about loving yourself.
Oh, wow.
So what do you have to
Yes.
tell us about loving yourself?
Well, the thing about loving yourself is that everybody has heard that phrase, but nobody really understands what that means. They don't know, okay, so do I love myself? And if I don't
Right.
love myself, how do I address that? Like, what do I do for that? And the thing about loving ourselves is that, you know, when we love ourselves, when we actually make time to take care of ourselves, what we're doing is we're putting out a message to the universe, and we're putting out this message in energy, but we're also broadcasting this message to anyone in our lives that says, I know how to receive love, and I believe I am worthy of love. And it really has to start with that foundation, because we're not trying to get filled up from someone else.
Right.
We're wanting to come into the situation with a healthy, stable sense of self, right?
And I know,
we're not trying to. Sorry.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Yeah.
My apologies.
We're not trying to bring we're not trying to bring ourselves like a hole that's just waiting to be filled, waiting to be filled, waiting to be filled. That's not who we are. We're wanting to come into the situation with a strong sense of self and with an idea of how to take care of ourselves, because you need to be able to express to someone else, this is what feels like love to me. This is how I need to be taken care of. But if you're not taking time to love yourself and to take care of yourself that way, you don't, how are you supposed to know? Like for me, I know I get sleepy easily, like early. I get tired very early.
And then you get really cranky. Do you get really cranky?
I get cranky. I get cranky if I'm tired. I get cranky if I'm cold. And I get cranky if I'm hungry. So my husband knows those things. It's like, if I didn't know that about myself, if I wasn't listening to what my body was telling me, and then I couldn't tell him that. He was one of the first people to say to me, you give like a 5-minute warning and then you're pretty much out. He was like, and I was like, yeah, I don't do well when I'm uncomfortable. It's all I can think about.
Right.
So those kinds of things for loving yourself. And it also has to do with boundaries, like having your own, what are your healthy boundaries? You have to know what those are. Loving yourself is you are responsible for communicating what your boundaries are, but to communicate them, you have to know what they are. And that's part of self-love.
Absolutely. So I know, like you said, sometimes people think, well, of course I love myself.
Yep.
What do you mean I don't love myself? It's sort of like that self-sabotage. But really, when we're talking about self-love, sometimes people don't realize that they're not showing self-love. So like you said, taking the time to get to know yourself, understanding what makes you happy and being able to express that, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, right? So that we can help people love us better. So that we, as you said, we can feel the love, but not looking for them to fill us up.
Yes, exactly. And the interesting thing really about self-love too is if you look at your life is a printout of what you believe is possible for you.
Okay.
Your life is a printout of what you believe you deserve. It's like a 4D printout you're living in of what you believe you deserve. And you can look at that to see how much you love yourself.
Exactly. And I
know sometimes when you're in a particular situation, you go, I'm too good for this situation. I shouldn't even be in this.
I shouldn't even be here. Yeah. This isn't even why am I even dealing with this? Yeah, exactly. People do that with dating and be like, why am I even doing this? And you're like, yes, you're in the wrong situation.
and then we're finally
somebody else.
Right. And then we're finally realizing that in order to get the love that we want, we have to love ourselves in that manner, right?
Absolutely.
And so then we're waking up to the realization that, wait a minute, maybe I'm not loving myself the way I should. That's why I'm not receiving it the way I want it.
Yeah, and if we stop and ask ourselves, would a person who loves themselves be in XYZ situation? Or would a person who loves themselves accept this particular kind of treatment? And even in terms of like those books that you were sharing, would a person who loves themselves and has access to that kind of information, that kind of help, would they just pass that by and ignore that? Or would they actually invest in learning and healing their mindset so that they can have a good relationship? Would a person who loves themselves, it's a good kind of like a hack where you say, would a person who loves themselves do XYZ? Because a lot of times, like we were saying, you don't know initially what self-love looks like or how to love yourself more. And the other hack you can use is you can think about what you would want for your child. Like if you're a woman, a lot of times if you're in different situations where you're not sure if you're practicing self-love or not, you think like, would I want my daughter to do XYZ? If she's if you're in a situation where you're dating or something like that and someone's behaving in a certain way, what would I tell my daughter to do in this situation? Would I tell my daughter, just suck it up and hope things get better? Or would I tell my daughter, like, no, you have to clearly communicate what your boundaries are here, or this is not a safe situation for you, or you know what I mean? It's like a lot of times that helps us get around that and be able to see what a loving response, how to take care of ourselves in that situation with love.
And I know it might be difficult, but what about for men? What would men say if this was my son or if this was my daughter? How would men kind of go into that perspective of if it's a healthy relationship?
What's amazing is when a man has a daughter, his whole thing changes, even if it's just for a minute. In terms, he goes, "Oh my God, every woman I've ever dealt with was somebody's daughter."
Right.
Yes.
You know, and there's this thing of this switch, right?
Right.
Where it's like, in terms of how they are going to treat women, they have like a light bulb moment there. But in
Right.
terms of them loving themselves, it's the same question that you can ask. Would someone who loves themselves put up with this kind of situation? Or would someone who loves themselves, um, it's more like a lot of times with men, they're thinking about how can they be the hero in the situation for the relationship. It's a different kind of energy. You know, that word hero means
Right.
something to men that women will never understand. We will never be able to really grasp the power of that word hero, right? But for
Right.
men, it's like, what would a loving what can I do in this situation that a loving person would do? What would make me a hero really on a deep emotional level in this situation? You know, men are thinking about how they can provide, how they can protect, how they can, those kinds of things. But it's still important for them to think about, how do I take good care of myself? How do I have good boundaries? How do I do those things too?
How do I not get used also in the same
How do
situation,
I
right?
not get used? How do I not um get into situations where I start to believe that all women are like this, and so I'm
Right.
Mm-hmm.
responding in a negative way to all women? How do I heal from, if I didn't have a great relationship with my mother and now I don't want to mistreat all women because I have that situation with my
Right.
mother? You know, all of those kinds of things. Men are thinking about things in a little bit of a different way, and it's almost like we have to do two different,
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
not a
conversations.
wrong
But
way. We just do things differently in
no,
a
No,
different
no,
way.
it's
no,
just
Okay.
right.
I
each
just
Right.
want.
men have strengths, women have strengths,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to be in sync with those things. And even within
Absolutely.
ourselves, we have masculine and feminine within ourselves that needs to be in balance.
Absolutely. And I know we're talking about self love. So, another way to know if you're in a healthy relationship, we have a self quiz. So, we recommend that you take the self quiz to know where your relationship stands,
And understand if you're in a healthy relationship.
or
So,
if you're not in a healthy relationship. All
yeah.
right. So, take the quiz also. So, what is our next point? We're going to talk about dating behaviors. All right.
Got to get your act together here. You wonder why you can't find the one.
Because people are just wiling out here. Like, I will see people will say things to me about what they're encountering on in the dating world, and I'm just like, wow, I'm lucky and I'm flabbergasted. Like, how is this even like appropriate dating? Like, why would somebody think I'm gonna do this and that's what's gonna get their attention? you know but with dating behavior, it's kind of what you want to think about is like, how you continue is how you begin is how you continue,
Okay.
right? How you start is how you're going to continue. So it's setting a foundation for the relationship. So things that maybe, like tips for both. So let's start with women. Tips that women can think about is, if you feel like you are always being approached by men who want a physical relationship with you before they get to know you, then check and see if you're leading with, your sexuality when you're
Okay.
dating.
Okay.
Because if you lead with your sexuality, that's what you're saying is the most important thing about you that you want to connect on, right?
Okay.
So
Good
that's an
point.
important thing. With men, a lot of times there are, men are broadcasting their discomfort with being in the dating situation. Especially, you see this a lot of times online, where they'll be like, some dude, it'll be like 5 pictures of some dude not smiling at all, and they'll be like, nothing, nothing in the, clients will show me like, this is who I'm, this is what's showing up for me, and it'll be like 5 pictures he's not smiling. I think he's trying to look strong, but it's no, be approachable, be relatable, be, safety, you know
Mm-hmm.
be interested in getting to know what she's about and what's important to her. you know it's like, you need to be able to be open. For women, we need to be able to signal that we are receptive to being approached, and then men need to be able to look at that and approach, right? But in a safe, in a respectful kind of a way.
Gotcha.
So, what
But
are
that's
some of
kind
the
of like the balance that we're in.
Yeah. So do you think dating behaviors now are different or are they the same? Do you think?
Oh, that is such a like that's a huge question. But I think that a lot of dating behaviors when people actually start dating are the same, but the way we're meeting is different. So we're meeting, it's much more easy for us to meet and for us to meet all over the world. But when it comes to the actual dating behaviors, what people do on dates and stuff like that, that hasn't really changed too much. You know,
Okay.
it's still like people meet, people have dinner, people go to a movie, people whatever. You know, it's not as but it's like what's different is that people think that the online world that you can date there. You
Right.
don't date there. You just meet there.
Oh, good,
Okay.
good. All
Yeah,
right.
that's a good point.
Yeah. So you want to take that into real life as soon as you can to see if you have a real connection because you want the relationship to be in real life.
Right.
Right.
So you need to take it offline into real life as soon as you can. People will be like, "Oh, you know, I have this my boyfriend blah blah blah," and I'll be like, and then I'll find out they've never actually been in the same room with that person before, and that person is not your partner
Yeah, that's not
if
your
you've
part.
never actually been with them in real life. You know, you need to see what the chemistry is like, see what the relationship is actually like in real life. And the other thing that people do because of being able to curate an image of themselves to present when they're dating, initially when they're meeting, is that they try to be perfect through the whole first few months of the relationship. And then you don't
Yep.
get a chance to know the real person and they don't get a chance to know you. You know, you need to know what is somebody like when they're stressed out? What is somebody like when they had a hard day at work? What is somebody like when they get frustrated? How do they treat people that they think are a higher social class than them? How do they treat people who they think are a lower social class than them? Because we do still have those kinds of ideas of class and things like that. And that's why people think things like, do you tip waiters?
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
do you yell at people that you think of as service people? You know, that's a thing to consider with someone in terms of like, what is their character like? You can't know those kinds of things online. You don't know how people interact with the people that are in their life. How do they treat other people in their life that love them? Do they
Right.
honor,
Right.
do their words and their actions match? You don't always know those kinds of things online. So you
Absolutely.
have to get
So
into reality as soon as you can.
so when we meet someone, and I know, like you said, we're always that for the first 2 months we're perfect. So what
Mhm.
do you suggest people do if they're really interested in finding that partner and ultimately getting married? How do we show up the first few times? How should we take it from being a single person looking for that healthy relationship and meeting someone and actually showing our true authenticity? How much should we show and how much should we reserve?
Okay, so there's this thing that a lot of women do that I've noticed is I call it dumping your purse out on the table. So what happens is
I love
coming
it.
into a date, and the first thing you start to say are things like, well, I've been hurt really bad in these previous relationships, and so I'm not about to play any games. So I need to know, like, what is it that you're looking for? Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to waste my time and blah, 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 blah.
Wow, that's dumping the purse, huh?
That's dumping your purse out on the table. And the reason I think about it like that is because, like, not everybody needs to know that you've been hurt before, and they don't always need to know it on the first date. And you don't know that everybody that you first encounter needs to know that whole story,
Right,
right? It's
Right.
right.
some people you encounter will never need to know that story. You know, you don't dump your purse out on the table. You don't go to a party, go to the middle of it, and just dump your purse out on the table and be like, "Everybody, let's talk about what's in my purse." No,
Right, right. That's a good
you know.
point.
Let's
That's
talk
a
about
good
all my
point.
issues I want to get on the
Yeah,
Absolutely.
table.
let's unpack all this baggage and talk about it together. No, we don't
So
need to
people
do
may
that.
think that's being real, but it's not. So it's
People,
it's
they always think I'm just trying to be honest. They say like I'm just not about to play any games. That's what they say, like, I'm gonna play games. It's like, well, that's not a game playing. It's not a game playing thing to have. There's a difference between transparency
yes.
Mm-hmm.
and you know, choosing when you're going to disclose certain things, right? You can
Right.
be transparent and still have privacy,
Right.
And
right?
still,
And
Yes.
go ahead. Hmm.
so sometimes what people do is they think that by saying that they're being very clear about what they want, but what they're really communicating is I have a ton of wounds that I have not healed yet.
Yes.
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 And
yes.
if you want to move forward with me, I'm probably going to take that out on you.
And so we're wondering why relationships are failing right from the very beginning, right?
From the beginning, right? And so that's the thing that happens. And another thing is just trying to be sexual too soon. It's like,
Okay.
you know, it's there are other ways, you know, it's like sometimes we rush into sex because we feel chemistry, we feel an attraction, we feel that, and it might be that we haven't had sex in a very long time, and so we're thinking like, okay, but people bond. You know, women approach sex differently than men do. Women bond because of oxytocin and because of all of these other things, and it's not wrong that men don't bond. With men, you know, if we can kind of get into it, with that,
Absolutely.
it's like, so when a woman has an orgasm, she has a flood of oxytocin that gets released, and that oxytocin is a bonding hormone. So it bonds us to that person, and it makes us feel empathy for them, and it makes us feel like you and me are on the same team.
Right.
Me
Right.
and you are like this. It's like,
Yeah.
it's us against the world. It's how
It's a
they feel.
relationship. Absolutely.
It's a relationship. Yes. Men don't, and for women, that flood of oxytocin it lasts about 2 weeks. We have way more receptors for oxytocin, and we're very, very sensitive to it. For men, they have a flood of dopamine, which is the hormone that makes you go, woo, that was great.
Thanks for that ride.
Great. Yes. You know? So it's like, that's just where they're coming from. You know, and men also know the difference between dating and relationships in a way that women don't understand. Women will think we went on one date and that means we're in a relationship.
Yep.
And you can tell because she's mad. If he doesn't call her for the second date, she's mad he didn't break up with her. How's he breaking up with you when you've only been on one date? It's one date, right? So it's like, but men understand that. Men understand that we're getting to know each other, and then we decide if we're going to be committed and exclusive.
Exactly.
Based on having this knowledge of each other that we've gained over time. Women go, you are great. We have this incredible connection, and now I can stop looking.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because
Good
it's just
point.
us.
Good point. Right?
Yeah. So one of the things for women is to understand that difference between relationship and dating, and to actually let it be a little bit fun. Don't get physical too fast. Keep your eyes open and your heart still.
And don't dump your purse out.
Don't dump your purse out on the table.
Right.
Don't dump your purse on the table.
Right. Don't scare
You know?
them before you can actually get to even know the
them.
person.
Right.
Because
No.
they're thinking, right.
Right. And one of the biggest questions that I get asked the most often is, so if they ask me what I'm looking for, what should I say to avoid scaring someone away? Because what if I'm looking for commitment and marriage and kids and all that stuff?
Right.
Should I say that on the first date, or is that too much? Right. And the answer to that is, you answer that question as though the person is saying, what are you looking for in a person you're dating? So if I was answering that question and I was dating, I would be like, somebody who loves 90s R&B and wants to go with me to Summer Jam, somebody who likes to travel.
Right.
You know, I would be
Right.
talking about things that I want to do
That
on
you
dates.
enjoy. Absolutely.
Right.
Because I'm not going to talk to you about everything that I want to like long-term relationship wise, because I don't know if I want that with you.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right. So you go and you giving all this information. The other person may be taking that information and go like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that tied to that person like that. So you divulging so much information can actually scare the other person off.
Well, right. And plus, they might want to do those things with you after they get to know you.
Sure.
But some things have to develop organically. Some people go into it and they know exactly what they want. And then they meet someone else, and they are so lucky that they meet someone else who also knows exactly what they want. And they both happen to want the same thing. And that's great, you know. But very often we don't sit down like at a job interview where like you each have job descriptions and you're like, all right, so this this is what I'm looking for. I am on this. I don't even have a lot of time for this date because I'm very, very busy. I'm going to need you to answer with
Right.
very short yes or no answers. And some of
Right.
these questions are multiple choice.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we don't go into dating like that. Dating isn't like that. You don't make love happen. You make love welcome.
Okay, I like that. That's
I
some
like
good
it.
information
It
about
is.
how we approach dating and our dating behavior. That's very. I mean, I haven't been in the dating scene in a long time.
Long time.
But I know that from previous, as you said, previous conversations, the first thing women say is, "Oh, well, I'm just being real, or I'm being
Yeah.
honest, or this is what I'm looking for. If you're not this and you're not
I
that."
don't want to play any games. I
And,
hear
and that normally
so many
happens,
times.
like you said, dumping out the purse. That normally happens because you've been hurt. It's like, okay, I'm going to get all this out of the way because I don't want to deal with this, and this. I'm going to put this on the table. So now, if you can deal with this, then we'll be good. But you still haven't healed
But
from
an
it.
emotionally healthy person looking at that isn't going, I'm so glad you told me about all your baggage in advance.
True.
They're going,
Right, right,
I don't think this is a match, and they're going to move on.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, if you want to be
absolutely.
with an emotionally healthy person, work on becoming an emotionally healthy person. Don't broadcast your baggage, and then, look out for self-sabotage and those kinds of things.
Absolutely. And I know we talk about all of this in the episode, which is so good. So you said you're a ninth generation heal, eighth,
Eighth generation.
six. Oh, shit, we
Six.
done gave her-
Man.
But I
But-
appreciate it.
you know,
I
huh?
I couldn't remember, so I was
Right.
trying to say.
I-
Okay,
You
let's
said
take,
eighth, that's
take
a
the
ninth?
generation.
Right.
It's going to continue.
Amazing.
So you're, and I was going to ask you what generation. So you're a sixth generation healer. So tell us a little bit about that.
So, when I was growing up, right, my mother, there were energy healing things that my mother knew how to do. There were energy healing things that my grandmother knew how to do, but nobody did any of that professionally. We were always sort of like that weird family. People, if they needed help with something, you go under cover of darkness and you don't tell anybody you went.
Come in through the back door after 9 when nobody can see you. Okay.
Yeah, there have always been root workers. There have always been people like that function beside society in the same way. But I mean, like my great grandmothers who were root workers founded a Methodist church in Ohio. It was always a thing that was just a part of who we were and what we did.
Okay.
Okay.
And just an understanding that like there were things that what we're seeing, the circumstances of what we're seeing in the world are able to be influenced by more than just our behaviors.
Absolutely.
And that our intentions can make shifts in the world around us, and that they can manifest in different ways. And that if we're using our energy, if we're using that in a systematic and consistent way, we can create changes intentionally, and that's really what healing is as well. The healing is manifestation. Healing and manifestation are very much two sides of the same coin, right?
Okay.
Because
Right.
manifestation is I have an intention and I'm going to call it into reality, right? Healing is I'm going to restore something to its originally intended form. Right?
Okay.
So it's like in both cases, what we're doing is we're calling about a change based on what we believe should be happening. And so with my clients, I work on the healing that has to do with clearing out wounds in their energy so that they don't dump their purse on the table. So that
You're a
they
purse
don't
protector, okay.
self-sabotage. So that they can let go of those patterns, because 80 to 90% of what we do is motivated by wounds or beliefs that we hold really deeply in our subconscious mind. It's only
For
10
sure.
to 20% of what we're doing that we're consciously doing, that we're choosing with our conscious mind. So it's the same reason why you can everybody has that friend who's in that relationship that knows that they shouldn't be in that relationship, and they complain to you about the relationship, but they won't leave the relationship, right?
Right.
Because the pull, they're making those decisions, they feel that compulsion to stay there because of wounds that are in their subconscious, not because they don't know to leave.
Right.
Right.
So those are the things that need to be healed, because once those things get healed and cleared out of energy, it's like it's easy. It's easy to make those other choices. When you're trying to date or you're trying to change or you're trying to have a healthy relationship, you're in it and you're beginning, it's like driving with your parking brake on, if you
Right.
haven't healed
Right.
all of those other things, because
Absolutely.
you're trying to strong arm, you're trying to like willpower, it's like, I'm not gonna self-sabotage. You're gonna do it.
I'm going to make this work. This is definitely going to work.
It's gonna work. It's the same way as like if you're trying to exercise, like have a fitness routine, you're trying to exercise or something like that, but you have a lot of resistance to that because, say, you have resistance to the idea of being more visible in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If that's a deep-seated thing where it's scary somehow for you to be visible in the world, it's not going to matter how many gym memberships you have, or if you have a Peloton at home, or if you do Weight Watch. None of that stuff is going to matter because you're not going to do it, because 80 to 90% of you is going, we can't be visible. We can't be visible.
Right.
It's too dangerous. And the tension that comes up when you try, you will do anything to avoid that tension. You'll do anything to just like make that tension dissipate. So
And
it's like,
go ahead. Go on.
so we come up against this resistance, and it's very, very strong. So unless we clear those things out, once we clear those things out, we clear the resistance. And people will say things like, it's, they'll say things like, once, like, I remember that I was constantly thinking about my ex, like we'll do the energy work together. And they'll be like, I remember thinking about my ex, but I just don't anymore.
Exactly.
So it's
Right.
like, I remember that there was a time when I did, but I just don't feel like that anymore. So it's like that person is not going to be thinking about contacting their ex when the new relationship starts. They're like, I'm not even
Exactly.
thinking
I'm
about that
over here.
person anymore. Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't
I'm
care
looking for
about
a
them.
fresh
Yeah,
relationship.
and I was just thinking how the self-sabotage, right? And then the self-love, and then the dating behaviors, how they all really tie together when you're talking about the healing that we need to take place, clearing out, the old wounds or the beliefs, the old deep rooted beliefs that we believe certain things, and that's why we stay in relationships, right? And so
Yes.
once we heal from those and release them, and it's in our subconscious, we're not consciously aware of them, but we have to do the work. So how do you approach those people who really need to do the work but may not see up front that this is something that needs to be healed or cleared?
The honest answer to that is that I don't.
Okay.
Because I don't try to convince anybody to do any kind of healing unless they are ready to do those things. If they are ready, I am here to hold out my hand and help them do that. But I'm not about to try to like convince somebody
Right.
that this is what you need to do. Because the thing about it is, our own wisdom is always sovereign, right?
Yes.
I can never say for someone else my agenda for them.
Exactly.
Their soul has an agenda for their healing. Their soul knows if they're done with that ex or not. They might not be, So if someone calls me, even if it's a client of mine, and they're like, hey, this happens all the time, where someone will be like, hey, so do you think that I should meet with my ex? Because he called me for my birthday, and so I was just, thinking maybe I should meet him. I'm like, you already have reservations to have dinner with your ex.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you.
You're going to co-sign, right?
Yeah, you want me to tell you it's fine. And I'm like, there may be more that you need to learn in that situation. And if I tried to stop you, you're not going to get the experience you need to have. One of my clients, that happened with her, and I was like, you already had reservations with this ex.
Right.
You're already having dinner with him, right? And she was like,
Right.
okay, yes, I'm already having dinner with him. She had dinner with him. She got back together. And I always know someone's about to do this because they start to get real sketchy with their sessions.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll call you about scheduling the next session.
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
okay,
When they're putting the healing on hold.
Yeah.
Yes, we always know. So she ended up getting back together with this ex for a month and then reaching back out. And she was like, it was the most horrible month of my life.
Wow.
She was like, I finally ended up sitting on a curb on the street at 10 a.m., sobbing, and just realizing he is never going to change.
Yep.
This person's never going to change.
Why do
he
we think
really
that?
is
Mhm.
never going to change? But she needed to go through that because nothing.
Right.
people told her for years he wasn't going to change. It's not like nobody told her.
Right.
But she needed to get to a point where her spirit was ready to accept that
it.
and really believe it before she was able to move on. You know?
Absolutely.
So I never try to I don't tell people to break up with other people. I don't tell people to steer clear of their ex because I don't know. My agenda for their healing is not sovereign. Their spirit's agenda for their healing is what's sovereign. My job is to help understand what that is and facilitate that, not to try to override it.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say, I don't try to convince people of anything. That's not, no. Even with friends that are like, should I break up with them? I'm like, well, you're both really good people, and I'm sure you'll figure it out.
And that's so important. That I don't know. So people want us to co-sign on their bad behavior,
all the time,
or on their bad relationships
all the time. Oh, they come to you like, hey, am I wrong because of this?
And then when it doesn't go right, you go, well, you told me to go and do it, right?
That's why I don't.
They need somebody to blame.
The key is to get really philosophical about it and ask them questions.
Yep.
Exactly.
Like, do you think that you need to break up?
Yeah.
Like, do you think I need to break up? Do you think you need to break up?
Right.
It depends on how you feel about the situation.
Right.
Hey, we got a comment here. I want to go ahead and get this comment out.
So important.
It goes, came from Vanya. Vanya, thanks for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Tell Tommy we said hello. It said, be real all the time. And that's when we were talking about some of the being authentic with yourself, showing up as you all the time.
But as she said, you being real all the time is important. But I think that's
that's part of loving yourself, knowing who you are, and not showing up as someone else just for the sake of a relationship.
But setting those boundaries in the beginning, right? So we can have we can be real, which is true, Vanya, absolutely. Show up being ourselves. But what we're saying is that you don't have to air all of your dirty laundry on the first date.
Yeah.
And so women are saying, okay, I've had bad relationships. I don't know what to do. I go into it being nice. That doesn't work. I go into it being real. That doesn't work. What we're saying is that be yourself, be authentic, but also understand, give the relationship time, give the dating time to date. That's the whole point why it's called dating. Mm-hmm. So women out there who are single and looking for that healthy relationship, you have to show up healthy. Yep. You have to show up mentally
Men
healthy.
too. I don't put all on the women now. Men need to show up too.
Absolutely. Yes. So you can't expect to try to date someone who's in that health, who's mentally healthy, and expect them to help you to get healthy, right?
Right.
Because as you said, they're looking across the table going, yeah, this is not the person I think I want to be dating.
I don't think this is going to be a match. But I wish you the best. And I hope that you get what makes you happy. The other thing people don't sometimes realize is that when we share with other people the worst thing someone we've dated has done to us, sometimes we're telegraphing to that other person.
Yes.
This is what I will put up with in relationships, or this is what I will put up with in dating.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't mean that, and we don't intend for them to take it that way, but we telegraph to them, this is what I have put up with in the past.
Right.
And what we're really doing is showcasing this older version of ourselves instead of who we actually are right now.
Yes.
And you're wondering why it keep happening to you because you already told them this is what you will accept.
You told them on the first date.
Yep.
They cheat on me all the time, and I always end up taking them back. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't want anybody to do that to me again.
All right, so before we get out of here, we're going to here's the info on where you can reach our podcast. And we had Carisa on episode number 89 of Sustaining Love. Mm-hmm. So go ahead and show our podcast.
All right, podcasts come out every Wednesday. lovingbeyondtheido.com or wherever you get your podcast delivered.
You can also click them on Facebook when we post them. You can click on the link and watch our YouTube videos on our podcast. And
also, might as well let them know. Won't you please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Love Legendary Relationship. So just search Legendary Relationship on YouTube and come over there. You'll get all of our Friday night or our lives over there and other good resources and information.
All right, Carisa. So tell them everything about you, where they can reach you, what you do, Miss Love Coach. So tell them more about you, where they can reach you and information.
So they can reach me online at my website, which is carisamontooth.com, CarisaMontooth.com. Yay, there it is.
Here we go. Yes.
We have you. We have
Thank you
you.
so much. She's all ready to go and everything. Wow.
Yeah. Look at that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
And yeah, that's the best place to reach me. You just click on that little button that says "Say Bonjour" up in the corner right, and it will connect you to me so that we can chat about what is going on in your heart and your life right now, and what you need in order to move forward in love. And yeah, you just send me that little message. I just love this. Look at this.
Yeah. Look at that.
Walking through.
We have you covered. I told you we have you covered.
You totally do. So that's the best way really to reach me. I also have a YouTube channel. It's under Carisa Montooth. And on Instagram, I'm at Carisa Love Healer. And those are the best ways to reach me.
All right. So again, she was on episode number 89 and Sustaining Love. And we go in depth and she tells us about her sixth generation. She's a sixth generation healer.
Six.
She talks about being a love coach and things we should and shouldn't do to make our relationship sustainable. All right, Carissa, is there anything else you would like to leave the people with? How about you, Jason? You or Carissa?
I'll
Go
let
ahead,
Carissa
Carissa.
go. She's our guest.
I just want to tell people, just remember, love is not like other stuff. You can hustle and make almost anything happen in your life. Love is not like that. You don't make love happen. You make love welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. And we welcome love. All right, Jason, any other information you want to put out?
Let me see. Nope. Oh, yeah. Don't forget, again, the books, the resources. Definitely go to legendaryrelationship.com/books.
Okay, so we have a page on all books that are helping relationships, helping
Yes.
you. They talk about self-love, talking about the awakening. We talk about love stories. So anything that you need. Knowledge is power. So we're trying to put the information out there on how to make healthy relationships so that they can last. It's not just the wedding. We're not just trying to get to the I do part. We're
That's
trying
right.
to have the same type of love chemistry in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. And it is possible. We have to begin with ourselves.
That's right. Yep.
All
A
right,
happy
so-
marriage is something that we make happen.
All
It just
right.
doesn't happen.
All right, so show them one more time where they can reach Carissa.
All right. Well, then Carissa, say
All
right
right.
there on her website. And what's that you said? Say
Say bonjour.
bonjour.
All
Say
right.
bonjour.
I love that. I love that. And then you could just drop her a quick little line and send her a message, and then she could start to work with you. But
There you go.
you better be real. She sound like she don't play. Don't you come there talking no crazy stuff.
I'm going to tell you what you need to know, but it might not be what you want to hear.
All right. All
Yeah,
right.
we do the same thing.
Well, I think that closed out another Friday Night Live.
Yes.
And Jason and I here just want to let you guys know that we're helping.
People take their marriages off of cruise control.
All right, so let's take our marriages off cruise control.
Thanks for watching.